Persona 3 Reload has finally made its way to the Switch 2 in demo form, and this one's been right near the top of my wish list. I played it on PS5, absolutely adored it, and I've been waiting ever since just to see how Atlus's remake of a classic JRPG translates to the new system. So basically, that's exactly what we're looking at today. Now before we do dive in, if you're new here, I cover all things Switch daily, from performance breakdowns to reviews, to deals, to lists, all sorts. So if that sounds interesting, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It really helps out the channel, and we're pushing hard for that 100k milestone. Alright, let's get into it. So for the few that may not know, at its core, Persona 3 Reload, it's a JRPG. It's one part traditional dungeon crawler, one part life sim. Now you play as a high school transfer student. They stumble into what's called the Dark Hour. It's a hidden slice of time that strikes at midnight. Now during this hour, most people transform into coffins, or shadows, they roam free. Those are the enemies. It's up to you and your friends to fight them back. Now stylistically, it's incredible. To summon a persona, your characters, they raise pistols to their own heads and pull the trigger. It's dramatic, shocking, and one of those ideas that never really loses its impact. And in true Persona fashion, while it begins with high school routine and stylish menus, the story quickly tilts into darker territory. Outside of combat, Reload lets you live that day-to-day life, attending classes, building bonds, even picking up a part-time job. And those choices, they feed directly into your power in battle. Now the remake enhances this with more freedom of movement. Think like locations such as the school and the dorm. You can freely explore them now. It does still use fixed camera angles in many of these to control the perspective, but it feels so much better. And then we get to the dungeon portion of this game. It's called Tartarus. It's the game's massive tower. It's actually the only dungeon featured. But here it reshapes itself floor by floor, so no run ever feels quite the same. Now the demo itself takes you as far as the 22nd floor, and it culminates with the first major boss in early May. Now along the journey, it introduces the core party, the flashy group attacks that trigger when you've outplayed an enemy, and enough systems to show really how the two halves, dungeon crawling and daily life, overlap. It's going to be around 4 to 5 hours of play, more if you do take your time, and while it's just the opening stretch, I think it does a great job of really establishing the tone, the theme, and the rhythm of the experience. One quick tip though here, make sure you finish any side activities before tackling that final boss, or at least the ones you want to, because once you beat the demo, it just cuts off. Thanks you for playing, and yeah, it says you'll carry your save forward to the full release. Basically, make the most of each and every day. And if you do want more detail on the game itself as well, watch out for a full breakdown of really what it's all about here on the channel very soon. I've actually been working on that for a while. The reason, I think this is a game that should be celebrated. Now onto performance, and yeah, it's pretty much what I expected. Persona 3 Reload on Switch 2 is targeting 30 frames per second, and for the most part it holds that line. You'll see the odd dip down into the high 20s, I'm talking like 28, but nothing that basically derails the experience. And honestly, while a 60 would have been nice, this is a turn-based RPG, and I don't think it's strictly necessary. What matters more here is that the style carries through, and this game is just dripping with it. You know, whether you're in battle, navigating menus, or just exploring the city, it's just incredibly easy to get lost in its world, regardless of the frame target. That said, it's also not flawless. In this demo build, there is a noticeable issue with frame pacing. What that basically means is that the game doesn't always deliver each frame at perfectly even intervals, and that creates a little judder, a stutter. Even if the overall frame rate is steady, you're going to basically notice it when you rotate the camera in bigger areas like the school. And at times, it even gives movement a slightly delayed feel. You know, sprinting in particular feels just a touch less responsive than it should, which I'd actually chalk up to that uneven frame delivery. And that's exactly what you're seeing on screen right now, the graph top left. Even though the bottom line looks relatively flat, the average frame rate, those spikes up top tell us the delivery of frames isn't always consistent. Now, it's not game-breaking by any means, but it is something you will feel in motion. It's just basically the one area where the performance doesn't quite hit. No doubt though, there's also a good chance this will be corrected for launch, and it's just one of the last issues that needs to be ironed out. Finally, for performance, I do want to note as well that I did test it in handheld, and in the short 10-minute window that I tried, it actually felt a little smoother here. Whether that's the smaller screen masking some of the stutter or just the way the game presents itself, it was definitely less noticeable than on the big screen. Alright, then we get to visuals, and look, this game is gorgeous. It's translated beautifully to Switch 2, just as I'd hoped. If you played it on PS5, like I did, you'll absolutely notice the difference in resolution. Yes, the image here is softer, but the heart of the experience comes through intact. You know, the bold menus, the sharp battle transitions, the persona summons exploding onto the screen. It all feels just as stylish and dramatic as ever. The character models carry so much personality. The environments have that moody kind of tone that defines Persona 3, and the animation work consistently incredible. It is one of those games where the art direction does the heavy lifting, and Atlus, the style here for them, really shines through. In short, the visual identity, it hasn't been diluted at all. That said, I do still have a couple of complaints. First, when sprinting, the motion blur can be, well, a little too much. It softens the image aggressively, and at times, it almost looks like the clarity of the screen's being washed over. I even checked the options to see if there was a way to dial it back, but in this demo build at least, there isn't. Now, whether it's here to help mask the 30 FPS target, I cannot say, but I'd love to see Atlus either give us an option to turn it off, or maybe just tone it down a notch before release. The second issue then is something you'll notice when exploring Tartarus. Sprinting through its shifting corridors, the fog effect that kind of masks distant areas, it occasionally struggles. You know, objects can pop into view a little late. It's not constant, but when it happens, it definitely just pulls you out of the atmosphere for a very, very brief moment. So overall, I came away impressed with this demo of Persona 3 Reload on Switch 2. Now look, it's not flawless. The resolution drop, if you played on PS5, it's noticeable. The motion blur while sprinting is heavy-handed. There's some popping in Tartarus, and the frame pacing creates a bit of a stutter and delay at times. You know, those are real drawbacks. They're worth calling out. But even with those issues, this demo still delivers a great taste of what's to come. The style, the atmosphere, the characters, it all feels intact on Switch's new hardware. And yeah, basically, it left me genuinely excited to play the full release. You know, this short slice, in my opinion, it does its job. It sets the tone, it introduces the systems, and it makes you want more. So yeah, again, I'll be putting together a bigger video soon that really digs into all of the things you can look forward to, because there's plenty to be excited for. For now though, if you enjoyed this look at the Persona 3 Reloaded demo on Switch 2, again, make sure to hit that subscribe button, helps out the channel a huge amount, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers all.